During my playtime with Jedi Survivor late last month, the game felt like such a damn step up compared to Fallen Order, and that says a lot because I do really think that Fallen Order was a really solid game, but Survivor has just stepped it up in so many ways, and mostly that is to do with the overall quality. It's nothing to do with the story, having not really played the story myself. It's not even just the combat or the size of the game. It just feels like a much higher quality game. So today we're going to be going over 8 of the best quality of life changes that they've made between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There is going to be plenty more Jedi Survivor content on the way. But with that being said, let's get stuck right into it. Now, the first thing I noticed, and it was probably one of the first things I checked when I actually played the game, was BD1's little like map or mini map, whatever you want to call it. And this thing has been drastically improved from the first game. Now, I think pretty much all of us agree that the map in the first game was absolutely terrible. In fairness, a lot of it was to do with essentially just the actual design of the levels themselves. They were often a little bit maze-like, I guess, in terms of like Zepho, even Kashyyyk a little bit. So part of it was down to that, and I think obviously if the maps were designed a little bit better, then the actual map itself wouldn't have been an issue. But I think most people tend to agree that the map was not anything special by any means, but it has definitely been improved a lot in this game, and in all of my playtime I never had an issue with finding where I needed to be. So this is definitely one of the first things that jumps to mind when I think of quality of life improvements, and I think if you guys were like me and got lost countless times on Zepho in Fallen Order, then you are definitely in for a good time with this game, because it feels like they have really fixed that issue, which for me personally was one of the biggest issues with the entire game of Fallen Order. Now, the next thing on the list is actually fairly similar, or I guess relevant to what I was just talking about, and this one is the new fast travel system. Now, the other main issue with Fallen Order was not just obviously the map itself and it feeling like a maze, but the fact that every time you finished a mission and it was like really deep into the map, you had to get all the way back to the Mantis, and it was never easy, and even if it was easy, it was never quick either. The good thing with Jedi Survivor is that there is fast travel in this game. You are able to fast travel between all of the meditation points in the game, and that's going to make traversal a lot easier in this game, because simply put, if you finish a boss fight and you just want to get back to the Mantis, you can literally just fast travel. I can't confirm this because at the point when I was playing, I don't know if there was one on the Mantis, but we all know that in Fallen Order there was a meditation point on the Stinger Mantis, so I dare say there will be again, and even if there's not, you can just fast travel to the one that you know the Mantis is closest to. So once again, that is going to make the traversal a hell of a lot easier in Survivor. Now, the next thing, and this kind of does actually touch on the last one a little bit too, not so much in terms of the actual navigation of the map itself, but in terms of traversal and movement in general. I'm sure you guys know that there is actually now a grapple hook in this game. You are essentially able to do your best Spider-Man impression as Cal Kestis, and I'm not going to lie, this thing was a lot better than I expected it to be. It felt very smooth. It allowed you to get to areas that you can obviously get through anyway, but you would have had to climb in the previous game, and it just kind of takes a lot of time off the actual movement and just allows you to get around those little like cliffs and ledges and stuff a lot easier, which is definitely a good thing, because I think, especially being a second game in the franchise, we don't need to see Cal like struggling to climb or running around slowly or anything like that. We all know how the movement in the game works. We want it to be smoother and better than it was in the first game, and that is definitely the case in Survivor, especially because of little elements like this new grapple hook. Now, next on the list, and again, this one actually kind of links back. I'm actually quite proud of the segues that I've done here, and I actually did this on accident. But the next thing on this list is that you no longer have to actually hold L2 or LT to begin climbing. Obviously, in Fallen Order, when you jumped onto like anything that you could climb onto, you pretty much had to hold L2 or the left trigger. Otherwise, Cal would kind of half grab onto that ledge, but if you didn't press that button in time, he would literally just fall off. And it was kind of just annoying. It was just an extra button that you had to push, and a lot of the time, even though we should have probably gotten used to it, it felt, at least for me, like I never really got used to that. And the good thing is they have completely removed that in this game. Pretty much if you jump onto something, for example, like vines that obviously you can climb on, you don't have to press L2 or left trigger. Cal will literally just attach onto it and he will start climbing. So it seems like a very small thing. I know it's literally just pressing one button, but it was one of the biggest things I actually noticed when I was playing, at least early on anyway, that it just felt a lot smoother. You jump onto a ledge or you start climbing something and you just start climbing. It's as simple as that. So that once again makes that whole traversal and movement a lot smoother in Survivor. Now, the next thing on the list, and this is not so much something that actually improves like the functionality of the game, but the customization screens in Jedi Survivor are so damn good looking. And like I said, although that doesn't really improve their function, they still operate the same as they did in the first game. It is a real quality of life change when menus and the UI in general looks really, really smooth and clean. It just makes the game, for me personally anyway, feel like it's a lot higher quality, and obviously when we're talking about quality of life, that does tie in together. So like I said, the actual UI itself in terms of navigating the customization screens and stuff, they're not drastically different than the first game, but they definitely look a whole lot better, and they also felt a lot smoother too, a lot more responsive. So that is definitely a big change in my books. Now, something else that I think a lot of people are going to be happy with, a lot of my close friends who played Fallen Order were not fans of the puzzle rooms, and I know a lot of people out there feel exactly the same way. And the good news for you guys is that the puzzle rooms are going to be a lot more optional in Jedi Survivor. Now, there will still be some puzzles that are part of the main storyline. Pretty much any game out there has some level of like a puzzle to it, even down to technically a boss fight is a puzzle. You've got to figure out how to actually beat that boss, what movesets work and what don't work. It is just part of pretty much any game. But the good thing is a lot of the puzzle rooms in Jedi Survivor are now optional. They're pretty much just side content where you can get a cool extra reward, whether it be some sort of appearance or something aesthetic, or it can be something that actually benefits you as a player in terms of a perk, for example. But they are no longer really required to actually finish the story outside of, obviously, like I said, there will be a few scattered throughout that main storyline. For me, this is a great change because obviously not everyone is going to be a fan of puzzles, and even though I do personally like puzzles, there's nothing worse than when you're just trying to progress the story, you want to get to the next boss fight and you kind of get stuck on a puzzle. It feels really frustrating, and obviously that is the point because it makes you feel rewarded when you do finish it, but sometimes it does just get in the way. And I think now that these are mostly going to be optional, if you're stuck on a puzzle, well, just leave, go progress the main storyline and then come back to it later. So definitely a positive change for me, and I think a lot of people out there are going to be very happy with this one. Now, something else that pretty much just comes down to the quality of the combat being a lot better is that there are now sort of more ways to play this game due to those added stances and the added skill trees, and that really just adds a lot more replayability, which is definitely a big quality of life change, because at the end of the day, the more replay value a game has, the more the game is actually worth. Because if you can only play a game once and then you're really just done with it, compared to being able to play it 3 times over and it's a little bit different each time, then obviously you're getting a lot more bang for your buck with that second option. So I think you guys are going to be absolutely stoked with the way that the combat is in this game, and I really do think that you can do a playthrough with like the single blade and the crossguard, then you can do another one with the dual wield and the double blade, and they're going to feel like Cal is actually a completely different character. So that was one of the biggest things that I noticed, just the essentially overall quality of the combat, but it also has that effect that it gives the game a lot more replay value, which definitely adds to the quality of life. Now, the last thing on the list, and this kind of does tie in again with the last one, is that not only is the game more replayable, but the boss fights are now a little bit more sort of dynamic, I guess, because there are different ways to approach them. So obviously in Fallen Order, when you came up against, say, Taron Malicos, there's really just one way to fight that boss. You just have to play the way that that level is designed, and essentially at the end of the day, you guys beat all of the bosses in that game pretty much the same way that I did. There's not really any other ways to do it. However, now that is definitely not the case, because obviously you guys might beat the boss with a crossguard, someone else might beat them with the single blade, and I might beat them with the double blade, and all of those are going to feel very different from each other. The parry timing, the dodge timing, it's all very different between each stance. They all deal different damage to each other. Even the attack speed is different between them all. So when you guys are watching content creators, for example, playing the game and you see us fighting the Rancor, you might watch one person who might beat that Rancor completely different to how I beat them, and then I might beat them completely different to how someone else beats them, and that definitely adds to the quality of the game when you don't have to fight each boss the exact same way. It makes it feel a lot less linear, and it kind of makes everyone's experience just completely different from everyone else's. But anyway, guys, those are the biggest quality of life changes that I noticed in my playtime at the early preview event late last month in LA. I'm keen to hear what you guys think and what you guys are most excited about, so be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comment section. And like I said earlier, if you guys are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. We are not too far away now from the launch, and there is going to be a lot of content right here on the channel once the game is finally in our hands on April 28th. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and may the force be with you always.